Today's personality is Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu anhu. I've highlighted a few pointers for us to live in. Umar ibn Khattab, he meets with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the 6th grandfather from his mother's side. And they call him Farouk because he was able to separate between the good and evil. Yes. And they call him Abu Hafs, his name. His profession, he used to look after the sheep since he was a child. And they had sheep that belongs to his father and his aunt. And also he used to chop wood to be used, and he also traded as a merchant. From his characteristics, first of all, he was a humble person, yet the clothing he wears is rough. And he's known also by being very strong in anything that is truth and for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. He does not bend or change, or he's not lean, so to speak, with the truth. What is right is right. He cannot tolerate any weaknesses. He used to wear, the clothes he wears is wool, and it is the holes that is in the wool are patched with leather. And he used to have his abaya, shal, like the best that we wear, and always carried his water bag with him wherever he went. Even although with these features, his character really scared people, or he leaves a very strong impression on anyone who sees him. You could call it respect, fear, powerful in the way his character is and the look is. They cannot tolerate, looking at him. Most of the time he rides the camel, not the horse. He is the first one to be called Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the first one who called him Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. And Umar ibn al-Khattab was not wealthy, and he used to work in, as I said to you, he was a tradesman before Islam and after Islam, until he became a Khalifa of Muslimin. Then he left his business, and Bayt al-Mal, that is what you call it nowadays, the central bank or the Ministry of Finance, gave him a steady salary in order for him to look after the issues of Muslims rather than have his attention focused on his business in order to sustain his life, so to speak. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to gather people in the beginning of Da'wah in the homes as families and individuals in one of the homes to teach them about Islam and to read to them Quran. And among these families is the family of Sa'id ibn Zayd, and his wife is Fatima ibn al-Khattab, that is the sister of Umar ibn Khattab. Nu'aym ibn Abdullah, he was also a cousin of Umar ibn Khattab, was at that place. And Al-Khattab ibn al-Arad, the companion of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, teaches them to read the Quran and teach them Islam. One day, Umar ibn Khattab, before Islam, he heard that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is meeting some Muslims and teaching them in a house. In a house near Safa. You know Safa and Marwa? The house was near Safa. He got very angry, took his sword in order to kill the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. On his way, he met Nu'aym ibn Abdullah, and he saw Umar was angry. And he knew immediately that Umar is targeting his sister's home in order to kill the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He was there to kill the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what Nu'aym did, in order to divert him in going to the Prophet Muhammad to kill him, he told him, might as well check your sister, whom she and her husband are studying at home. She is worthy of settling your issue with her. Now Nu'aym said that he wanted to divert Umar ibn Khattab from seeking the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to kill him wherever he is. So Umar went to the house of his sister and her husband, and as he was knocking the door, or closer to the door, he could hear somebody is reading Quran in the house. And it was Surah Taha. So as he entered and marched into the home, Khabbab went in hiding in the house. And he told her, I heard someone reading the Quran. Where is he? She said, there is no one reading the Quran. So Umar immediately beat his sister and her husband. And she started bleeding. And he told her, let me see what you are reading. She said, you cannot touch it because you are mushrik, you are not a believer of Islam. And she told him the ayah, إِنَّمَا الْمُشْرِكُونَ نَجَسٌ. Unclean, yes. So he washed his hand, or he washed himself, and then he read that paper that he had the verses. He said, it is so nice to read, and the meanings are so good. At that moment, Al-Khabbab showed up from hiding, and he said, by Allah, I've always wished that Allah would grant you the guidance of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the dua, where he said, Allahumma ayyid al-Islam bi ahad al-Umarayn. Oh Allah, support Islam with one of these two Umars, that is Amr ibn Hisham and Umar ibn Khattab. So Umar said, guide me where Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is. So I'll go to him and pronounce my Islam. So he went, and his sword is with him. He knocked on the door. Hamza saw him, and he told the doorman to open the door for him. He said, if he is coming for good, we will help him in good. If he is planning on killing the Prophet Muhammad, we will kill him immediately with his own sword. So they opened up the door, and as he walked in, the Prophet ﷺ, he grabbed him from his clothing and said to him, what brought you here, Umar ibn Khattab? He said, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, by Allah, I can see you, either you will be guided or you will be at a loss. So Umar said, Ya Rasulullah, I came here saying that I believe in Allah and the Prophet and his Prophet. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, Allahu Akbar. And by the takbir of those who were around, everybody knew that Umar has announced his Islam. Situations of Umar ibn Khattab. Now we move into another subject. After his announcing his Islam, he said to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, aren't we the ones who are right? And we are always on the right, whether we are alive or dead. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, yes. He said, why are we hiding our faith? So he said to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I will go out in public and announce my Islam. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam granted him the permission. So he went to a place where Quraysh was gathered, and as they saw him and Hamza was with him, they felt depressed at the moment. From their look at their face, Quraysh, it was really something that depressed them when they saw two big leaders of Quraysh, walking in a form and a way, they knew they are not among their own group. That is why from that day, they called him Farouk, because he really drew the line between good and evil. The second situation is that none of Quraysh dares to fight Umar ibn Khattab or to hurt him, or even think of hurting Muslims. This aggravated Umar. Why they cannot, no one can put his hand on me, and yet, sometimes he hears some of them are hurting Muslims. So he was there, always there, getting in the way of their kafir leaders in order to aggravate them and for them to try to, fight him back. He was seeking a war or a fight with them. Provoking them, yes. To announce his Islam among them. So they couldn't do anything. As he goes and he faces them, he talks to them and he announces, he's provoking them, exact word. Wherever he went there, all the time. Even, they couldn't do anything. And at one time, he stood on Utbah ibn Rabi'ah and beat him and poked his eye. So people immediately escaped away from Umar ibn Khattab because they saw if anyone dares to touch him or to fight with him, he would be finished. The third situation, when Muslims migrated from Mecca to Medina, Ali ibn Abi Talib said, I've always known everybody who migrated, they migrated undercover or hiding. Without anyone knowing their whereabouts, they migrated. Except Umar ibn Khattab. When he decided to migrate, he took his sword and his the spears and the arrow with him and went towards the Kaaba and announced in front of the leaders of Quraysh as he encircled the Kaaba. He said, if any one of you wants to become an orphan or to be someone who is dead, let him see me outside in this valley and try to prevent me from migrating to Medina. Any one of you wants to become dead or to leave a wife and a widow and orphans, let him meet me out there. That is why Imam Bukhari narrates that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, the minute Umar became a Muslim, the sense of greatness and pride among Muslims came immediately with his Islam. So that is why he was called the Farouk, لأنه فرق بين الحق والباطل. He separated between good and evil. It was obvious. In Ghazwat Badr, Umar ibn Khattab killed his uncle, Al-As ibn Hisham, which shows you, when it comes to Islam, the issue of family relationship has nothing to do with faith. He killed his uncle because he was a non-Muslim and a warrior against Islam. Also, he had his own opinion regarding prisoners of war. After Ghazwat Badr, there were prisoners of war from the Mushrikeen. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq thought that they could pay a ransom in order to be released. They will pay off in order to be released. Umar, his opinion was no. Any kafir prisoner of war should be killed immediately. Alongside with Umar ibn Khattab, Ali ibn Abi Talib shared the same opinion, that any prisoner of war of Badr should be killed immediately, and also Abdullah ibn Rawaha. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did not take a decision. He was quiet as he heard these different points of view and did not answer them. He went to his home, and when it was the next day, Omar said, I came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. I saw him, he and Abu Bakr, crying. So I said, "O Prophet of Allah, what is making you cry, you and Abu Bakr Siddiq?" He said, "Allah Almighty has revealed a verse in the Quran that says, the meaning more or less, that the Prophet should not release prisoners of war unless they are killed immediately," which came to coincide exactly what Umar ibn Khattab's opinion was. That's in Surah Al-Anfal, verse 67 and 68. Another situation among the prisoners of war was at that time, the media was in poets. There was no media, there were newspapers, there was no television, no radio stations. The media was in poetry and poets. They are the ones who give the poetry that praise or criticize the enemies or the personalities. So every group had their own poet. Among those prisoners of war from Badr was their poet. His name is Suhail ibn Amr. And Umar al-Khattab wanted to finish him and pull his tongue out of his mouth in order not to say anything against Muslims as a poet. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "I don't want somebody to do something harmful or torturing. I don't want to torture one of them so they would not do the same thing to one of us." Like
to retaliate.
Yeah, retaliate. Especially when the issue is that cutting a tongue or doing something, they would retaliate later on with the same type of action. You cut someone's ear or hand, they'll do it for your prisoner on their side. For the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, I don't want to start it and then they will do it to our own people. I don't want to be the person who initiates that. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, perhaps the day will come, this person will be in a position different than he is today. And that had happened, yes. After the death of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Suhail ibn Amr, his speeches and talk to the people made them hold on to Islam and made them strong. So he became an ally to Islam and Muslim. Omar and women rights. These two are my cousins, by the way, and they told me they're leaving early just to let you know. Hayakum Allah, wa fiqh inshallah. Habib Jazakallah khair.
Very young cousins.
Huh? I discovered they're mine. Yeah. They came here because they're interested in the English language, and they come for also khutbah, he said here, because they focus better when it is in English than if it is in Arabic in the normal mosque. They find it different. And both, I think, they are in the American school. They are able to utilize whatever they learn in English here in propagating to their surroundings that are there. And that's why they're attending today. And they told me ahead of time, we might have to leave, but we're here just to get the feeling of what this is all about. Anyway, Umar radiallahu anhu, he was well known. On one day he spoke about limiting or fixing, he called it dowry, for the woman to get married. Yes, to put a cap on what it is. And then a woman stood against him. It says it's against a verse in the Quran. And immediately in front of all of the people said, a woman is right and Umar al-Khattab is wrong. In public. He's not ashamed of that. Umar al-Khattab, in his internal policy, he established so many things. One of them, Bayt al-Mal, is that what you call today is the Ministry of Finance or the Central Bank. Before that, there was nothing in the Islamic community. he stated he created it and put the policies of it where any income comes to the Islamic country or state, it has to go there, whether it is from more or from zakat. And there is a place where it goes, and there are system that calculates the income of the country and where to save it, where to spend it, and so forth. Also, he started the Diwan. Nowadays, it's a bigger size, which is the ministries. One of them is the Diwan of the army, that is, has the registration of the army staff and their salaries and their position. The other one is Diwan Zakat, where zakat is collected and is kept in records in order to be collected and spent. Also, the country's revenues, how much is being gained, how much is being spent, and the jizya, which is the non-Muslims, they have to pay a certain amount for the protection of being in the Muslim community, and all of the managerial and financial issues to run the country. Also, Omar made sure that the governors that he had assigned in different Muslim countries should not be cruel and should be spread justice among the people that they meet, and also enforced upon them is that they should focus on their duties and not on their personal business and interest. They have a job to do. And he used to ask people about the governors that he had assigned. Who are they? What do they think of them? Do they have any complaints against them? In order for him to evaluate them. And with him, he had a panel of the Sahaba, the older Sahaba of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, just like an investigation committee regarding these governors. A panel where if he receives a complaint about so-and-so, he is the governor of that area or that country, this panel goes and they investigate that ruler of whether he's performing right or wrong, or whether he's behaving right or wrong. And also in non-Muslims' rights, Umar ibn Khattab used to say, they have what we have and they have to do what we are doing. They have what we have and they have to do what we are doing. And he used to exclude them from jizya, which I said is that the yearly amount they have to pay for to be protected in the Muslim community. If some of them had a weakness in financially, or they had some debts they had to pay, those who cannot afford to pay jizya, Umar excluded them from paying it because of their financial weak situation. These are non-Muslims living among Muslims. Also, Nizam al-Shura, the Shura principle. Umar used to take the judgment. He had a panel of, the wise Sahaba, and would always ask them for their opinion. There's a discussion about issues, and then they reach a consensus or an understanding of what to do. He never relied on his own opinion to run things in the country. And also, he also listens to the public's opinion. And then he would listen to the Shura opinion and the older Sahaba that are at that time well known for their opinion. If these come together, or if there is a match, then whatever rules are there are performed immediately, not against the public. Justice at the time of Umar, that is the legal structure at the time of Umar Khattab. Umar has separated justice system from the leader. The Muslim leader is not the judge. His role is leadership. The judge is in a different department. There is somebody who handles that. You cannot have both at the same time. And he had assigned judges in different Islamic states, like Abi Darda in Medina, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari in Basra, Shuraih in Kufa, Qais ibn Abi al-As in Egypt, and so forth. And also the letters that he used to send to these judges are one of the references in the Islamic judicial system, in the advices that Umar al-Khattab gave to these governors. Umar ibn al-Khattab was known for his opinion. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, Allah Almighty had made the truth in the tongue of Umar al-Khattab and in his heart. And also the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, before you there were people that are not prophets, but they speak on behalf of Allah for what Allah gives them the message to say the right thing at the right time. And if there is someone among my nation, is Umar ibn al-Khattab. Cases and examples. Alcohol, it is haram. When the verses in the Quran came to say that alcohol should be prevented, the verse came telling the believers, it came in gradual stages. Yani Allah Almighty did not say in the Quran in the beginning, do not drink. It says the first thing came that do not attend the prayer while you are intoxicated or drunk. So if you have to pray 5 times a day, and you have to make sure that you are in your sanity, so to speak, this means you have to, several hours before the prayer, you should not drink. And then there's another prayer. So in reality, there is no time to drink because there are 5 prayers. And then the second stage came the verse, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَنْتُمْ سُكَارَى. That is, first of all, do not drink when intoxicated. And then what Umar al-Khattab said, Oh Allah Almighty, when this came in, Oh Allah Almighty, grant us a rule that would end this forever. And then, upon revealed on the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that came that alcohol should be, it is haram and should not be touched at all. This is one thing, tahrim al-khamr. The second thing, ayat al-hijab. Umar al-Khattab used to say to the wives of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, if I had the authority, that is Umar, I wouldn't let anyone talk to you unless there is a veil between you and them. And then the verse in the Quran came that if you talk to the wives of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, it should be a barrier between you and them. It came to coincide on Umar's decision. Wish, yeah, it was wish. Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, when his father died, asked the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to pray on him. His father was known as a hypocrite. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ agreed. Umar objected. The Quran revealed what Umar decided on. وَلَا تُصَلِّ عَلَىٰ أَحَدٍ مِّنْهُمْ مَاتَ أَبَدًا. Allah said, do not pray janazah on any hypocrite that had died ever, which coincided with the opinion of Umar. The fifth position also in distributing al-ghanam, that is war bounty. Yes, the bounties of war. If they win over, the enemy leaves behind all types of treasures, money, horses, camels, weapons, and so forth. So they asked Umar to distribute the bounty on the fighters. So Umar gathered the scholars and the people of opinion to discuss that matter. Some of them said 1/5 goes to the Beit al-Mal, that is the Ministry of Finance, as we say today. The rest goes to the fighters. The verse in the Quran came, the same thing, اعلموا أنما غنمتم من شيء فإن لله خمسه. Whatever bounties you get of war, for Allah is the 1/5. And also, Omar said, if we do this, we have to have something for the future generation. So Ali and Uthman and Talha and Mu'adh and Abdullah ibn Umar, so it was a good idea. So Umar stood among the panel and he said, why don't we have to think about that? Because we have to know that somebody should be kept for the future. And therefore, we need to decide on that matter. So at the end, they all agreed with this opinion that if among the bounty plots of land that are used for agriculture, therefore these plots should not be given to the fighters. It should go to the state, and the state should take care of it because there's a production in it and there is a revenue that will help the Muslim community. At the time, on the year of 18 Hijrah, the Muslims had a severe drought. There was no rain for 5 years, or the 5th year of Umar al-Khattab from being a leader. People came from various places where there was no rain. They were hungry and they were seeking food. Also, beasts started attacking people because the beasts could not find something to attack or prey on. They started attacking human beings because of the hunger that was going on. That is why at that time, due to the financial difficulty because of the drought and the lack of resources, Umar ibn Khattab stopped the law that anyone who steals, his hand should be cut. Therefore, anyone who was stealing at that time, his hand was not cut, because the reason why he steals is because he does not have an income or money, and therefore what he did is permissible. And during that time, Umar has swear among himself that he will not eat meat until everybody eats meat among the Muslims. Yani he doesn't want to be different from the rest of the people in what he eats. His plan during the hunger years and drought was he called upon Muslim territories in various areas in the world where they had good situations to send in food to the drought-stricken areas and where his hunger is. And therefore, Abu Ubaidah had sent 4,000 camels carrying food. For Umar announced that should be distributed those around Al-Medina. So, because he does not want people to, all of them come to the center of the city and there's a chaos. So it starts with people surrounding Medina, and then other tribes came in with the food into other parts of it. Also Muawiyah sent 3,000 camels filled with food. And Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas sent 2,000 camels carrying grain and seeds also. Umar himself made sure that he supervised distributing this food among the ration, among the people in that community, whether it is flour, whether it is dates and so forth. And he has assigned, every family has a certain fixed ration on monthly basis. So every single home had their own package that can sustain them for an entire month. Umar bin Khattab, he did not select governors and leaders because they were between brackets that we say good. But he wants to know that they are capable and have the ability to rule. He used to tell them they should not be cruel to anyone or to do any misjustice, and to make sure that their decisions are taken very carefully. And he used to tell the governor, I have assigned you, and the blood of Muslim and their dignity is in your own hand. I want you to serve justice among them. And he used to monitor them, Umar ibn Khattab. Not only monitor them from outside, he also inspects what they eat and what they drink and what they wear. And whenever there's a Hajj season, he calls all upon his governors to come during Hajj, and he meets with them. He wants to listen from them, what they are doing. And of course, the well-known story that maybe some of you heard about, where there was a race between the horse of the son of the governor of Egypt, Amr ibn al-As, and an Egyptian. And the horse of the Egyptian was ahead of won the race from the horse of the son of the governor. So the governor's son beat that Egyptian and told him, you deserve to be beat because I am from the elite class. This information came to Umar ibn Khattab, and he sent a letter to Amr ibn al-As. It said, once my letter reaches you, you and your son come immediately. So Amr ibn al-As came with his son, and they brought the Egyptian person. The Egyptian was dead. And then Umar said, where is the Egyptian? He came and said, it's me. He said, take this stick and beat that boy who is from the elite and dignified group. He beat him. So as he beat him, he said to him, are you satisfied now? Then he said yes, and and then he looked at Amr ibn al-As, and he said, since when you put people in slavery and their mothers have brought them free? So there is no slavery in Islam. The conspiracy to kill Umar ibn Khattab. This is the final page, as I finish on time. Abu Lu'lu'a was a slave of these Majusi, those who worship fire.
Magians.
Huh?
Magian. Fire worshippers.
But they are
Fire
pagan.
worshippers.
Those, Farsi.
Like
Zoroastrian.
Yes. Anyway, he used to work for Mughira bin Shu'bah, and he got the permission to work inside Medina because he had certain dues to pay for Mughira in order to become free. And Umar never let those people work inside Medina or stay inside Medina. But the Mughira said, this man is a specialist in carpentry and carving and in iron work. So he has a unique specialty. We do need him to be among us. One day, Ka'b ibn al-Ahbar, he's a Jewish scholar, came to Umar. He said, get somebody assigned after you because you'll die in 3 days. So Umar told him, how do you know that? Do you find it in your book, in the Torah? He said, no, but your features and your death date is there. And exactly, the third day happened while Umar was praying Fajr as an Imam of Muslims. Abu Lu'lu'a, the person I mentioned to you, stabbed him 6 times with a double-edged dagger. And anyone who came towards him, he's also stabbed him, left, right, left and right, till he stabbed 13 men. Half of them died from these stab wounds. So Abdurrahman ibn Auf was there. He threw on Abu Lu'lu'a the shawl, just like a blanket. So he felt Abu Lu'lu'a that now he's going to be caught. So he took that knife he had and stabbed himself and killed himself. So Omar was bleeding everywhere. And he said, it is the fate that Allah had written and I accept it. Omar took the hand of Abdurrahman to send him forward to pray with people. But Omar fell unconscious. So as he woke up from his sleep, he said, did people pray? So Ibn Abbas said to him, yes, they have prayed. He said, there is no Islam for anyone who does not pray. And then he performed wudu himself and prayed while his wounds are still bleeding. They carried him to his home. He said to Ibn Abbas, who's the one who killed me? Who stabbed me? He checked and came back and he told him that the one who stabbed him is the enemy of Allah, Abu Lu'lu'a, the servant of Mughira ibn Shu'bah. Omar said, Alhamdulillah, that did not make my killer or the one who attacked me is a person who performs sujood to Allah Almighty. He doesn't want to have a Muslim. Alhamdulillah, that the one who stabbed me is not someone who can stand in front of Allah Almighty on the Day of Judgment and have something against me. And then Omar asked his son the same question and confirmed it is Abu Lu'lu'a Majusi. They brought to him a doctor from Ansar. He gave him milk to drink and immediately his wounds started having milk get out from his wounds. It shows that the severity of the stabbing. So the doctor realized that Omar definitely will die. And he said, assign someone other than you, Amir Mu'mineen. Then Ibn Abbas said, O Omar, your Islam was a sense of dignity and pride to us. And being our Amir, we have seen lands and territories became part of the Muslim nation. And Umar said to him, do you say this as a shahada? You swear by it that you are a witness to that? So Ibn Abbas said, I am a witness, and also Ali bin Abi Talib next to me is a witness. Then Umar asked his son to pay he had any dues, among dues to be paid, and to go to al-Mu'mineen Aisha alayhi salam to ask her for permission that he gets buried with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Abu Bakr. He said to him, tell her Umar, don't tell her Amir Mu'mineen Umar. He tell her Umar because I am not Amir Mu'mineen anymore. And he asked Suhaib al-Rumi to pray for the Muslims. جزاكم الله خير وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.